Another day in the PhD vlog. Did that sound real? Did that sound like legit British? Hi, we are talking about how academics make me feel dumb. Don't want to be an American idiot. That's how I feel. I'll be like, damn, am I American idiot? This is a form of imposter syndrome that I have experienced even before I entered the PhD program. There's something very intimidating about someone who holds a PhD. Being a doctor of something is quite impressive. I know I'm a PhD student myself. I know the most in my subject, in children's horror, as far as like between my peers. Obviously, they're researching other things, but let's go back to the beginning. Even me considering going to enter a PhD program just seems really intimidating. Like, me, like pursuing a doctorate? I just make scary movies. When I interviewed with my now supervisors, because you have to get their approval, at least in the UK, in my university, you had to meet with them prior so they can recommend you when you actually do apply. And I was so nervous. I was like, I have to talk like I know a little bit of something. That makes me think about the idea of like code switching, which I won't talk about that right now, but later on. Like the way that I speak with my fellow PhD student colleagues versus my non, academic friends. Now I'm more comfortable to be myself. I still control the way I speak a little, especially in emails. In my first year, I was overthinking the way I emailed my supervisors, the way I emailed other students. Oh, check out my they're very corny. I would be like, do I say it this way? You have to use these big words, very professional. And then you have to end your email with many thanks. Warm regards. There's like several things that I see in emails that are very common with academics. It's very heightened, especially in British culture. I feel like Americans, we would just say, hope you had a great week. And the British will be, hope you had a lovely weekend. On top of the culture thing as an American, and on top of like the academic world of language and how everyone speaks with like such precision, versus I'm over here like single syllable words. Whenever I'm around academics, I can feel like, how do they know all these words? The idea of like imposter syndrome within community. Even though I am an academic, I have been a part of this community for over a year now. I'm in my second year, but somehow I still feel it. In the most simplest terms, I have friends that speak very eloquently. It's not like they're trying to be smarter than everyone. It's just literally in their blood. That's the way they are. And I think it's great. And then I have other friends that curse every 2 words, so it's a combination of personalities. For example, even the way I text. So me as a person, as I normally text, I like to keep it short. Sometimes I'll just put the letter U instead of the full U. And I'll just be like, LOL, LOL. I just like to be fast. Some friends, they'll be like, hello, Xanthe. I'm messaging you about this instance. Would you like to hang out? Like, whenever I have those friends, my PhD friends, my reaction is to kind of match like the way they speak. To be honest, I don't even know exactly where I'm going with this. The idea of code switching, speaking a certain way with different groups of friends, and particularly in the academic world. And this crosses over into the actual work of it all. There is this idea that if your research and your writing style is too accessible, it means it's less than. That's something I don't agree with, because research should be accessible to everyone. If your writing style is so dry, then how can we enjoy like the things that you're telling us in your books, in your articles, in your publications? I would like to see a world where there's a little more of a bridge between that. Can we write books that teenagers can enjoy, like older teenagers can understand and kind of get inspired by, instead of being like, I can't read beyond page 2 because I have no idea what this doctor is saying. I know I don't need to feel imposter syndrome And then I know that when some of my friends correct my grammar when I'm texting them, they don't mean to be like above. They're just genuinely helping me out, and I do appreciate it. It also got me thinking about people whose first language isn't English. So if I'm feeling this way as an English speaker in the academic world, how much more, somebody from China or, India or, and they're not entirely comfortable with English. So I can imagine that can even feel more daunting. Some of my family members who are from the Philippines, they don't really want to speak with me because they feel uncomfortable about speaking English and looking dumb. I wonder like how many of us out there feel this way. There is no reason to feel like we need to speak a certain way. This feeling is doesn't mean that I don't belong here. Just embrace who we are, how we speak, where we come from, just so we're not having to conform to this idea of an academic and the language surrounding it. I feel like a lot of people would disagree with that because rules are there for a reason, especially in a community as rigid as academia, and a lot of things that will stay in place because it's been like that for how long? I guess all of this is to say is if you feel imposter syndrome, it's really all in the mind. And it's just a matter of being like unapologetic about who you are in the academic world. I know I'm very young. I'm a very young academic. I'm only a second year PhD student, but it's already got me thinking about these things, about how I'm noticing how this world can either subconsciously or consciously cause you to conform to this idea of academic and how one presents themselves or speaks at the very minimum. I'd be interested in hearing if any of you have this experience or this feeling, self imposed imposter syndrome, or maybe other people are kind of like saying something to you, being like, you should do this, or you should speak this way, you should act that way. At the end of the day, no, we don't. As long as we're doing the research and we're doing the best and we're doing the work, don't lose yourself in that because we are who we are, and that's a gift. That was a lot of rambling. Kind of hungry. I have been addicted to these Biscoff protein bars, and it's vegan if you're vegan. I'm a Biscoff addict. That's it for today. If you have any questions about the PhD life or if you have any thoughts about the subject, I would love to hear it. Please leave a comment below. Please subscribe if you want to. And I will see you in the next